and welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It's Monday. We survived I survived the weekend. Did you survive the weekend? It's Monday, March 2nd, 2020, and today I have a special guest, Damien Marie AtHope. I'm sure you are familiar with him.
Hi.
Good morning, Damien.
Hi. I'm Damien Marie AtHope, and I'm an Axiological Atheist, which is a value theory or a value science atheist.
Thank you. Good morning. I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody in this chat here. We got a lot of people showing up here. You know what, man? I'm just going to give up. I've been fighting it. I just can't. The wife will give me grief about it later. But good morning, Atheism, Junk Shop, Atheist Ant. Jay is here. Jay changed his name just to protect the innocent. I am Raven is here, and I'm here. So good morning. I'm surprised Dave isn't here, but he'll probably show up later. So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know of Damien Marie AtHope. I actually got the guy on my show. That's awesome. So good morning, Damien. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Okay, so if you don't mind, go ahead and elaborate on what you do. I want to say hi to Sandy. Sandy the Saint's here. He's going to play Dungeons and Dragons with us.
Right on.
Yeah, so go ahead and elaborate thusly upon what you do, because we got something to tell all these folks about what we're doing.
Yeah. So in general, I do atheist and humanist activism, and I try to promote, in a sense, rationalism. Like some atheists are skeptics. I'm a rationalist. Things have to make sense. You have to have a burden of proof to the reason of why you think something, claim something, believe something, support something as true. To me, truth is an axiological value judgment. In other words, when you say something is true, it has to have value to why you're claiming this. And so that's what I analyze. What is the value of what you just offered? If you say science contains truth or produces truth or finds truth or there's truth out there to find, all those in a sense are you're making a value. And I would say that science is the best tool to understand, the processes of the natural world. Some people don't like to say science is true because they feel like science is promoting that what the evidence is explaining, but to me, that is explaining what is known to be true at that point. In other words, with a certain amount of evidence, we come to what is a logical conclusion for what the evidence is promoting. Now, there could be other evidence that allows us to see it a little different. Often that happens in science. It's not that in a sense, like say gravity. We know gravity and it's true, but gravity in a sense is not the same in every single area depending on mass and other factors. So it's true. So if I say an apple will drop, it won't drop the same way in a sense in space. It might just float there. So there's a variation of, but it doesn't make it not true that on a specific thing of coming from a tree and landing to Earth, it's going to fall. If that same apple would be on the moon, you have to add in these other factors. It doesn't make what happened on Earth not true, not known. It's just that you have to understand that it is located in a specific field of what is going on. So anyways, I can go on and on about axiology, but axiology also, I'm an axiologist, something I like. I actually process most of my thinking in a sense, and actually to even go back one step from that, most people actually use some form of axiology. The difference is doing it with intent. I try to intentionally look at the world this way because it's easy for biases to come in. We'll just go, oh yeah, I like it. Well, liking something doesn't have anything to its truth value.
True.
People like religion, and it doesn't have the truth value to support its claims.
Gotcha. Jay from the Nevermore Tavern channel wants to say that he loves your goatee.
Oh, thank you.
He's got quite a beard, himself. Jay does.
Right
I'll pop you a link, Jay, if you want to come on the channel later and talk to Damien. Because Jay's a lot of fun. He's got his own channel. He does his own thing. He interviews people. I think they had a debate over there the other day. So
right on.
He's a lot of fun. I think you'd get a kick out of it. So how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing atheist activism, I want to say Well, I became an atheist in 2006.
Okay.
And in college, I was 35. And I did not know an atheist at the time. I had not read an atheist book. I didn't even know there was any. I didn't know there was an atheist movement or anything. What it is I was told to go to 2 religious classes. I took the first class, and it was Understanding the World Religions, where you had to take a class and explain, not defend, not attack in a sense, just explain what these people think. Mm-hmm. And doing that really allowed me to look at how there are all these similarities. All of them say, oh, we know how to live this life. You don't follow like a Christian one and then you go to a Buddhist afterlife. You follow the Christian one, you go to the Christian afterlife. You follow the Buddhist one, you go to the Buddhist types of afterlife or rebirth or, heavens and hells that they have, because they have multiple depending on the branch of Buddhism. But so I realized they say that only we have the way to live this life. Only we know what the afterlife is. Only our way gets you to the afterlife, and all this. I said, well, they all say that.
They all say that.
and no matter the religion, in a sense, they kind of all say this, something close to it at least. And so I started realizing, well, just rationally, mine also says that. How do I know? And because I had never really analyzed Christianity. I read the Bible twice, but not really in a critical way. I just whatever it says, I want to understand.
Right.
I had some problems because I started seeing contradictions with Jesus and Paul, but I didn't stop being a Christian or think the Bible was inaccurate. I just thought, maybe Paul had his own, views that weren't matching Jesus' views. Jesus said the woman would be better to sit down and listen to us talk than serve food when he was served in the house by Mary. But then Paul is saying that women shouldn't be, in a sense, leading and teaching with men. So you can see that there has to be a contradiction. But aside the point, once I heard this, it started to make me doubt. First time I really started going, maybe my religion isn't true, because I don't really know. I know all these have to be false, but how do I really know that mine is true? And so that got me in the path of being open to learn. Then I did a class in the Bible. I just got to the middle of the book, and I thought I was going to do great in this class because I thought I've read the Bible twice. I'm a Christian, I'm 35. I'm going to ace this thing. It was one of the hardest classes because they started talking about archaeology and all this stuff that I didn't know about, and it's like evidence. I can't deny science. This is evidence. They're showing this thing came first, this happened, but it finally got to the logic really part that said that, Lucifer, the serpent, the devil, and Satan, these are all, in a sense, different beings being talked about, and that they're not matching up the Old Testament and New Testament either, like what they're supposed to be. And so that it rocked my world, and it made me be willing to think. But it really was the archaeology for me that was like a nail point. So that's why I've spent now over 10 years researching archaeology and trying to offer it to others, because personally that is what made me an atheist.
Have you ever met Neil the 604 atheist?
No, I have not.
No? Okay, well, you need to probably be on his show. His whole show is he does these deconversion stories about how people, left the religion. Now, normally during my show, we kind of touch on it because it's, it's kind of hard not to introduce somebody and not touch on it.
Right.
Based doing what we do. But with Neil, he specializes in it, and he'd have you on for an entire hour just talking about you and how you came out of your faith, and he's got all manner of questions.
Sure.
That he would ask you. And then they have an after party where he'll let people just pop in the video and talk to you and ask you questions. That's kind of one of his deals. So, Neil, if you're listening, and I'm sure he's not listening. Yeah, because he actually gets me on, so I'm going to mark it down here. So
I think I have, a story that's interesting, because I hear some people say, oh, well, you don't just become an atheist in a moment, in a sense. Well, I don't think it was like a moment like 1 second. But it was just one class, and it was like really, I changed so much. My cognitive dissonance just broke about the Satan thing. I mean, I felt like a hot flash because I just got it. Man, I've been living a lie. I mean, it just hit me so freaking hard. It was like I couldn't deny it. So like the people like, you chose atheism because you wanted to sin. I chose atheism as a wrong statement. I realized that atheism was the truth. It horrified me. right when it first happened, because I didn't know what was going to happen or what that meant. But I realized this is the truth.
Yeah. That can be a moment for some people too. I mean, like you said, you felt it kind of.
Oh man.
And like I said, I'll absolutely put you in touch with Neil, because a lot of times what'll happen is Neil will be catching my show, right? And I'll be talking to the guest. I'll be like, so how did you come out of your atheism? And he'll be in the channel going, hey, that's my job. What are you doing?
Oh yeah, well I can add a bunch of stuff to that. I'm giving you like the simplified version, but I mean it was real impactful. But like I said, the biggest point of that is that what that class gave me was a hunger to know archaeology.
Yeah.
And also because I didn't know any atheists and stuff, I started for at least a year or two on my own. I didn't really talk to atheists. I didn't, because I didn't know that much about it. In fact, I didn't even know if I was an atheist. I just knew I didn't believe in God, because I didn't really understand a term or anything. I just said, I don't know, but I don't believe in gods. I mean, but now I know, well, then I'm an atheist.
Well, what about the activism? How and when did your activism come about?
Well, because I was still in college. Okay. So I finished my bachelor's, because this was my...
If you don't mind, let me just interrupt you and tell people that, like, almost 10 years ago, I peeked my head into into the atheist sphere, and I started writing my book and getting things ready, and I didn't know nothing about anybody, but I knew Damien Marie AtHope. I had seen him on the internet.
Right.
So this guy has been around doing this activism thing for many, many moons. I mean, he's had this beard color longer than I've been an atheist.
Yeah. I've had this beard color longer than I've been an atheist, I think. But
oh, you too, huh?
So I mean, because I think I had it like in 2004, I think. But this beard, but
So yeah, how did the activism come about?
Well, it happened because of college. So at first I finished my bachelor's, and I had become an atheist like towards the end or middle of my bachelor's. And I started my master's, and I got about 7 classes in my master's, and I just started getting irritated, because now I'm non-religious. I started getting irritated with how many articles they have supporting any like little good comment about religion. They'll deny everything else, and people feel happy. I go, well, people feel happy doing drugs. Should we then promote, drug addiction? I mean, not everybody ends up in the street, cracked out of their head. I'm not saying that that's not, a big problem, but my point is, there's nothing, they don't mention it good, bad, or otherwise. It's like blinders. And I started going, well, like every client's going to be a theist? That you don't even set up people to prepare for, because they made sure that I was prepared for other religions. Do you get my point? What I'm saying? I realized they had taught us other religions. They forced it on me. It was a demanded class so that I could be an ethical counselor. But they didn't even bring up at all disbelief, as if everyone in the world absolutely all believe. And I thought, wow, that's not good. So I started looking for atheist articles and stuff, because I had access to the school's archives of research and stuff. And I started finding a few things that supported atheism, but they're like rare and they don't talk about them. And or sometimes they're like offhanded facts, like they want to say, oh, is there any atheists in foxholes? And then they find out that genographic research or whatever research, going back, a long time through different wars or whatever, that the basic thing is that, people are afraid of war. The more combat you see, in a sense, these people, it would be different how they later in their life, are either an atheist or not, in a sense. That it really said, the article was basically saying that it doesn't show about atheists not in the foxhole. What it shows is everybody that gets traumatized, becomes in a sense more prone to being PTSD or having, fears or feeling a need that there's some kind of a protection or whatever. Anyways, but this article was, but so when they talk about atheism, it's like an offhanded thing. Like they weren't intending, or they actually were intending. This article was kind of like to debunk atheism, but it didn't debunk it.
Right.
So, it made me realize I need this is a special niche because when I had got into counseling, because I wanted to be a drug and alcohol counselor, was a special niche.
Mm-hmm.
But I started to realize there's a bigger addiction going on that no one's talking about, and it's religion. Religion is this faith addiction, and it's having this impact on people's lives. And I just started realizing somebody needs to do something about this. Someone needs to, full frontal attack against this, because this is an untreated, illness.
Yeah.
And
harm?
It's harming people. And even worse is no one's, and I didn't know that also much about atheism, so I didn't know that there was, professional atheists at this time even. Well, I'm just, I know that sounds weird to some people, but I didn't come to this because of atheists. I came to this just from pure reason and looking at this stuff. So I realized someone needs to do something. So I started being a little bit active on Facebook at first. And I mainly had like 73 friends, and most of them were religious. And so I was like fighting all the time. And I told this one friend, man, I said, it's rough. I fight all the time. It's like a job. To be on there and they just defend every comment and everything. It's all these people. And he says, well, why don't you get more atheist friends? And I said, how do you do that? And he said, well, go on a group of atheists and just be honest and say, I don't have any atheist friends. I feel alone, whatever. I don't know what to do. Can you please friend me or whatever? And so I did that. And I slowly started getting friends. And the more I started realizing how important this was the more people kept fighting me. I was still trying to go to school. Mm-hmm. And the people kept fighting me, and I realized I need to make a choice. I really feel like I was given this opportunity to understand, because I started doing intervention, because I wanted to because intervention, those people sometimes get $1,000 to $2,000 per intervention. They go off for 3 hours or less, an hour could be, do an intervention, but you have to fly, but generally somewhere, but they would get all this money. I'm like, money. that sounds good to me. But so I was focusing on intervention, which actually is good, because intervention for drug addiction is not that different to me, in a sense, from dealing with intervention for these religious addicts. You're talking to someone who's not in their right mind, in a sense, because their thinking is full of fallacies. It's full of cognitive dissonance. It's full of these psychological denials, and all these other, enmeshed emotions that you can't say, well, have you ever thought about God? They're like, and in fact,
wow. So what an analogy. I've heard it before, but never kind of put that way. Yeah.
Just to give it a point that I'm not being just exaggerating, not saying every theist reacts that harshly. Some just do denial, like, I don't hear you. But there's some that actually physically react. Or I was doing atheist activism, which is my form of intervention. The atheist activism at a college, where I put up some signs and I put a little booth, there with a candy, and says, take free candy. And it's so funny how many of them would come up and say, can I have candy but not talk to you? I go, sure. I said, it doesn't say here you must discuss atheism, you need to have candy. And it's just my open personality. They ended up writing about me in a college paper because of my style. Like the Christians would come and scream and tell people they're going to hell and all. And I would just sit there. And if they would come up and I go, hey, how you doing? I wouldn't even say anything. I wouldn't jump on them. And the candy, go ahead. And if they would you like to talk? And if they don't, then I don't talk. Yeah. And so just because I don't.
We see. Pardon me, we see these Christians out there trying to spread their message, and they'll have a meal or they'll have something, and they're talking to the poor people. Oh yeah, you can have this meal if you listen to the message. So we can't really. But it's good that you didn't go there.
You don't. There's no. I just have that to show I'm welcoming.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
one of the things I would find funny is that because of the distrust people tend to have of atheists, it would surprise me that somebody would take something from you that they could put in their mouths and consume.
Yeah, true, but I mean, yeah, they would definitely come up and take candy a lot, but and some people would grab handfuls, and I smile, whatever. I mean, that doesn't. So, because my point is not that the candy. The point is just, like I said, to show them welcoming. It's just a way to show that, I'm not there to threaten. But it was so funny that this one lady came up, and she was one of the professors. She was a teacher at the college, and she I can't remember exactly what she said now, but she asked me something, and I challenged her thought instead of answering. I challenged the way she explained it, I can't remember now, but I challenged the way she explained it, because sometimes I do that. Sometimes when people ask me a question, I ask them a question back because how they phrased it is so bizarre. But anyways, right. So she freaked. Listen, there's a guy, and you need to know. And she just started. I was like, "Are you?" I wish I had videotaped it, because I was like, "No one's gonna believe that this grown ass adult who's a professor sounds like a 5-year-old that you told them they can't have candy before they go to bed or something." I mean, it was what in psychology it would be like an emotional hijacking. It's where your, in a sense, amygdala just like fight or flight sort of, it just takes over. It's just all of a sudden you really are not in control. It's like a momentary bout of being insane, and so you're reacting on pure emotion and stuff, but. That every time I see that, though, it doesn't make me angry. It makes me more sad for them and realize I have to do something. It makes me feel compassionate. Man, the problem is pervasive.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I want to real quick point out Paul Camish. He's one of my Patreons, actually. He's an awesome guy. He mentioned that I have achieved and passed 666 subscribers. I did. Now we were going for 666.
Right on.
There it is. And then Kristen, I was like 665, I think. And Kristen comes to me. She says, "Hey, I need help moderating over in this thing. You want to come over?" So I go over and I'm moderating with her.
Yeah.
And I happened to notice that I got that 666. So I'm like, "Yay, I got 666. And I told her in a private. I didn't tell her in this. It was Talk Heathen stream.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't show myself in their stuff. I told her in private, "Hey, I got, and she went out. I said, I got 666. And she told everybody in the chat, "Yay, the Daily Atheist got 666. And here they come and screwed it up just like that. But that was great. Yeah, that was. So now we're on to 777.
Right on.
Sorry. Back to your
numerology.
Good morning, Paul, by the way.
That stuff is, focuses on numerology, the belief that numbers, have some sort of a magical or sacred significance. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so, it's really my humanitarianism, because I'm also a socialist anarchist, and being an axiologist in general is more of a humanitarian persuasion. It's realizing that we're all in a sense that exist, and that we need to help each other for us to have human flourishing, which is beyond just survival, which is beyond just even sort of a thriving. It's a flourishing, right, which is a different type of a thing. It's when everything is running well, when everything is, in a sense, people are respected and honored, and we can live in a society where we're less threat and more, positive. And so that's, in general what I want. That's why I also promote kindness, and I promote non-aggression, which is what I try to do even when I do atheist activism. Just because sometimes people will come at me really strong. I mean, you can see them, because generally they telegraph it for you. They come like a beam right at you when you're doing street activism. Like they come walking from like 20 feet away really fast, like they're gonna, like bum rush you or something, and I'm always ready to just be soft. Like in other words,
right? Well, you want to tell them about the video?
What's that?
You want to tell them about the video with over 1 million views? Where
we can tell them that in a second. I was just going to tell you my style in general. Then I was going to explain that.
Oh, okay.
So my style in general is almost like when you have a bulletproof vest. It's able to distribute, in a sense, the hit, so it doesn't break through. Is kind of what the issue is. So that's kind of what I do. When someone comes at me real strong, my first thought is ask them to go ahead and explain. Yeah. Because nothing in a sense takes out the fire out of someone's, anger more than saying, okay, I'm willing to listen to you. They go, oh, okay. It's because, they'll come up, how can you say there's no God? And I go, hey, you know what? I'm willing to listen to what you feel God is. Go ahead and explain it to me. Then we'll talk. And they're like, well, I thought you were gonna, say God, and fight me. And I'm like, hey, I'm willing to, hear you. You feel that I need to hear this? Go ahead and explain it to me. And it's that kind of openness. I'm not saying I'm a perfect, at doing this 100% of the time. Sometimes I get angry. I'm human. But I really strive to not, stop looking at that person and seeing a valued dignity being, someone that's worth helping, someone that's worth caring about. Like I said, the more that I try to see them as having this religious addiction, this faith addiction, the easier it is for me not to feel angry.
Right.
And that's really a good point, because I think that anger is easy, especially if someone is challenging you, especially if they're talking complete nonsense that I can, I know is wrong.
Mm-hmm. It
still takes compassion, because I realize you can't punch someone in the face with the truth and expect them to listen. It could be the truth, but that's like, and people know this in a sense, because don't you like certain teachers and not so much others? Isn't there certain, public figures that you feel more connected to? Generally, it's how they do their message. So how we do the message of the truth is an important factor, not just that it's true. But it's the being able to be not just having science, but being a science educator.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to do. So I was going to go back to video. So I have a video where I actually had gone down to the state capitol, and I was in a wheelchair. I had to go down because I'm mildly disabled. Like right now, I haven't been able to walk in like 3 months, but I will be probably hopefully real soon walking again. But anyways, I had gone there to speak out against trying to add God to our money or to politics, because the Christians were having a rally across the street about trying to promote God on everything. And so I was going there to contest it, but I wasn't even attacking them. I was across the street. So then I just was going back to my car, and I look, and right in my path, there's this guy holding this big sign that says, fear God, know Jesus, or some nonsense. And I was like, hey, perfect. I told my friend, turn on the camera. I'm going to go show this guy what's up. And I went over there, and it's got 1,300,000 views. And it's because I did my style, I told him evidence, but I did it in a way that was, put together to where it really challenged and questioned him. And then I did my hammer at truth, which is a tool. Like some people do street epistemology. I do truth navigation, which has a couple of techniques in it that I explain fully. I have 3 videos and 3 articles on it, and then a couple of articles that explain the philosophy behind what I'm doing. But it's basically kind of simple, that you always do it in this 3-way. What are you talking about? How do you know that? And why is what you offered valuable? Which is ontology, epistemology, and axiology used in tandem. Because one is getting the information, one is questioning how the information was gotten in a sense, the other one is then evaluating what has been offered as information. Is it really information?
Yeah,
So when you do that, it really allows you to use questions strategically, which is what I do in that video. And one of my favorite questions, which is an ontology question, which is what are you talking about, is what is a God? Because they say God, and I say, what is a God? Not which God, but what is a God? In other words, what are you saying a God is? So if I say, what is a chair to you, you know what it takes to be a chair. It can't be a table, even if you sit on a table. It can't be a long stool, but even though you can sit on it. There's a different quality of what it means to be a chair. And so when you say, what is a God to someone, you're making them describe the thing. Like some people will go, well, God's a creator. And I go, creator is a behavior of the thing that you're calling God. You know, they'll say, well, God is limitless. Well, I don't know anything limitless. You need to define that then. Or they'll say God is spiritual, which is saying them to define limitless is then an ontology question. Because you always, in a sense, every time something new is offered, you just go back to the beginning of my tool. Ontology always first, and then epistemology, and then axiology. So if they say, well, God is supernatural. Well, I can't keep going. I got to go back to the beginning. Ontology. What do you talk about? What do you mean by supernatural?
Yes.
So the moment...
I just want to introduce Jay. I don't know if you've ever met Jay.
Hi,
He's
Jay.
From the Nevermore... I'm sorry, Jay. I forgot
the Nevermore Tavern.
The Nevermore Tavern. I got it over there. He just recently changed his name. He's also a beard gentleman. We'll get back to your Axiology. I'm actually going to pop you up big on the screen so you can tell us all about it.
No
but
problem.
I wanted to introduce. He's one of my buddies who, when I first got on the internet and started streaming, kind of helped me out, showed me the ropes. Mr. Jay here. Jay, this is Damien Marie AtHope.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, so I just send him a link. Oftentimes he'll co-host and ask questions. And I'll probably ask you if you want to co-host in the future, Damien, if you ever get around to it. So I'm gonna
the only thing about that is it's so early, and my wife has to go to work. If it was later, that would probably be something I could do. Not saying I'll never do it, but this is like early.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, I understand. Well, if you want to finish telling us about your axiological, your debate method.
Yeah, my debate method, which I could say is truth navigation. I try to navigate what people are claiming truth to assess, is it true, but not just for myself, but for them also. And I think it's also a really important step that a lot of people miss of getting the ontology before you assess how do you know that, but what are you talking about? Because often, and at least I've experienced, and I've had street debates, is that people will then, if I didn't get a good ontology, will later go, well, that's not what I meant. And now that all this, 15 minutes of talking, they'll say God means, well, what I mean by God really is like this universal love that all humans have. You're like, what the heck? That's not how you were projecting it. But see, I never got a good ontology to where they defined it first. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, without knowing it, either they've moved the goalposts, which could be, or I'm strawmanning them without realizing it, just because I'm assuming without knowing. And both of those, in a sense, are, types of fallacies. So I find it to be not only an effective tool to destroy truth and to build, truth as well by using my style, but it helps to eliminate some of the fallacies or like hiccups that can happen in when you're doing direct debate. I don't really like debates where they, set up all this writing. I like more discussion kind of a debate where I can talk and we back and forth. On the street, man, I like, totally am able to get people to, think and change their beliefs like right away, because it's a way of really getting detail from them. And I guess one guy, just a quick way of explaining it. This one guy was drunk. So this is not a person who's fully thinking anyways, but I still got him to realize his belief was wrong. Because I was walking with another atheist to go to a restaurant, and this guy started following me. I don't know why. Maybe my red beard. Maybe he recognized me from something, because I have a lot of stuff out there. I have no idea. But he came up and he's like, "I know that heaven is true and angels are real." And I was like, "Oh, really? And why do you have this belief? Could you explain to me what you mean by angels?" And he's like, "Well, I can tell you in heaven." And he goes, "Well, I can tell you I took magic mushrooms, and I'm telling you I saw angels and went to heaven." And I said, "Okay, so are you saying that magic mushrooms, I want the ontology, are you saying magic mushrooms always get you to heaven?" And he said, "Yes, only magic mushrooms." I go, "Oh, so LSD or some other sort of, peyote, that won't get there, correct? You're saying only this type of hallucinogen, not all hallucinogens." "Yes, only, this type, And I said, "Oh, that's very interesting. I don't see how that could be so, but could you explain to me once again, you said you were talking to an angel." I said, "Okay, what was its voice? Was it loud? Was it quiet? Was it male? Was it female? Was it young? Was it old? Did it have an accent?" And he goes, right? Because these are all ontology questions. And I'm telling you, they will destroy someone's argument. But the best part? They realize it's been destroyed. they realize, oh, I can't defend what I just claimed, which is nothing better than that, because I can all day long tell you, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But when you in your own mind go, holy shit, I'm wrong, that is so much more life-changing or idea-changing, or the process of opening you up to changing idea, than if I just said, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Even if I made you feel stupid, you may then later go, yeah, well, I don't really like him, and so you keep your belief or whatever. But when you, right? But when your own mind, you're like, yeah, I don't really have any reason. So he goes, well, I didn't really, hear it. I go, oh, so it was in your mind. So the first claim was inaccurate. You said you knew it was true, but now you heard it, but now you didn't hear it, and it was in your mind. So let's go to the seeing it part. What did it look like? Where was it presented? Above you, below you, inside of things, in the air? What color? What? And he goes, well,
I hate debating those people.
Now that I think about it, yeah, it was all in my head. But I still know
you're on our side.
Right? So then he goes, oh, I guess I do know but it was all in my head. I goes, and everything in your head has always been accurate, right? And he goes, well, no, I've been wrong before. Oh, so you could have been wrong about this too, right? Yeah. Well, since we now have established, because I go back through him, you didn't see it, you didn't hear it, you only felt it, and your feelings can be inaccurate. So it really wasn't something you saw or heard, correct? Yeah, I guess that's true. He goes, I like talking to you, and then I had to go. But I was just walking on the street, and this guy, drunk, guy is just walking with me, like challenging me as I'm walking towards this restaurant. But
that's kind of the opposite. I'd like for you to visit with my friend Mike. He, at one time, I moved away, and whenever I came back, he had gone from being a very light Christian to being full down on holding. He was one of those guys holding the sign. Now, he doesn't hold the sign anymore, but he's still a believer. He's not I don't think what I would consider like a harmful believer.
Right.
There's people out there who are harmful with their faith. He's not one of those.
Yeah.
But I would enjoy you and him talking, because he's got a very similar. He's tough to argue. He's jerk.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. Is it's a kind of an arguing without arguing, because I make you supply me the burden of proof details that are worthy to get to a belief. In other words, I have what I call belief etiquette. Okay, like how you should go after beliefs. And it's all reasonable. You should have reasoned belief acquisitions. In other words, whatever you allow to come in for you to believe, because I believe certain things, whatever you allow to come in to believe, that you make sure it's reasoned how you got it. But let me tell you something. We're believing machines. We pick up beliefs sometimes without even realizing it. And they start affecting our life negatively. So we need something more than just being careful what we start, because we're going to believe stuff without trying. Because we're just that natural failure as a human, social animals, that we like to believe things. So we need good belief maintenance, which means that we reassess things we already believe, like science does, right? We re-challenge, well, is this still correct? Because see, here's another thing too, is it's not an all or nothing proposition. Could this be 80% correct? How about even 90% correct? But that still means 10% I need more information. And so it's this willingness to adapt beliefs to the facts, and then also to demand this of myself. And
John Anthony from the chat has a question for you about what is your approach to presuppositional apologists?
Well, I already think that in a sense, because of axiological and presupposition thinking. I'll get to that in just 1 second, though. But so the other thing that I do in my three things, so it's you have reasoned belief acquisitions before you get anything, good belief maintenance, and then honest belief relinquishment. When you honestly, intellectually look at something and realize I shouldn't believe this, you stop believing it. You're honest enough to say, even if I like this, whatever, I'm not going to believe it. These are very important. If you have this kind of standard, even if you end up with wrong beliefs, you have a way of escaping from them. But so presuppositional, in a sense, everything, like if I say I believe in science. Well, the fact of believing in science is actually has a bunch of presuppositions in it. One is that there's actually this thing called science that's producing knowledge. And there's more than that, but so it has this body of knowledge. Then I believe that there's somebody that's doing it that has some reason to be considered credible. And then I also think that the real world must be credible that they're doing it to have any kind of a knowledge source to be gathered. Then I also have to think that in a sense that there has to be awareness also. There's all kinds of other presuppositional that humans are aware of their own mind, that they're also have to be a world outside of our minds. Like some people are like, solipsists, to think that we only have thoughts, or maybe that everything is an illusion, like, could be, or that we can change it, like idealism type of philosophy. But in effect, when we make these claims, we're already saying all this without realizing, like, we're using a correspondence theory of truth in philosophy, which is that things are corresponding. Like if I say, there's a thing called science, there actually has to be something going on that's relating to what I'm claiming. Otherwise, it doesn't have any meaning. Gotcha. So, and there's three different types of, in a sense, truth I analyze, and I see them as working together. So there's, in a sense, to talk about presuppositionalists. So there's three types of way for truth. So the limited way to understand truth, in a sense, is that you're pragmatic, or what's called a pragmatic theory of truth. In a sense, all things start from this. I pragmatically cannot see out of my own mind, but I look at what it feels like, and my thinking seems to be ordered by me. Like it says, I think, therefore I am, like Descartes. That we're able to then pragmatically, we don't know the world yet, we haven't tested anything, we're just in our own self. It seems this is happening pragmatically. It seems logical to believe that, the thing. Then we assess what it seems like the other world is, and then we seem like there's other people, and they seem to be interacting with this world on a naturalistic type of way. And we're pragmatically saying, okay, this is actually going on, or the assumption. Axiologically, what I would say is there's an axiological value to assuming that the world is real as opposed to it not. Almost like when people say, it's better to believe in a God than not, But in a sense, that's a fallacy, because there's multiple what could be God, and there's no evidence of that. But it is what seems like to us a real world. So the conclusion is there's a real world with value where people get hurt, or this could be a simulation and maybe it doesn't matter. Axiologically, in a humanistic way, we're going to say, well, it's better to be careful that people could get hurt than act as if this world is fake, and then people so ethically, are getting hurt because or could get hurt because I'm assuming the world's fake. So it's real important to start. So a presuppositionalist cannot get outside of that either. They like to. They say, oh, well, I know different because God's a magic, Well, you don't get to start putting all these other stuff without first explaining how you know your own mind. Because you're talking about knowledge, or the Bible that you're claiming is knowledge. You first have to go back to, just like any rationalist, back to, I think, therefore I am, in a sense. So you start with pragmatic theory of truth. Then from there, the next thing you do is called the correspondence theory of truth. That what you say, in a sense, has to correspond logically. What I mean by that is there's logical fallacies. If I say, that I both can think and not think, either I'm talking about two different times of my mind operating, or I am denying the other claim. I'm saying? If I say if it's impossible for me to think and it's possible for me to think, one of those is wrong, or it's a contradiction. So even without knowing the outside world, there's logical things that can be contradictions without knowing. So that's called the correspondence theory of truth. And so you can already assess things without knowing the outside world. Then you use from there the outside world, which is that, in a sense, I said correspondence, that last one is coherence theory of truth. Things have to be coherent. Then it goes to the correspondence theory of truth of the actual world. So it's a progression, and they kind of, to me, people use them separately, but I see them as kind of like leading to different things.
Okay, I have questions from the place, so let me know whenever you get to a point where I can.
Go ahead.
When you thought.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if. Okay. All right. Neil wants to have you on his show. He did show up.
Right on. Hey.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Neil 604 Atheist. He does, like I said, the whole deconversion story. So I can imagine you've got some goodies for him.
Yes, I do.
And then, other people. Let's see. Who else had something? Granny, have you ever met Godless Granny? She's a new content creator as well. Jay?
No, sorry, I haven't.
Jay, have you met Godless?
Yeah, I've met Granny.
Do you have anything for Neil?
Well, the only thing I've got, it's one of the things. It's somebody that does what you do.
Yeah.
What is, you're all, a lot of them always talk about the worst arguments they've heard. The worst. What's the best argument you've heard for God?
For God?
Yeah.
Well, I would say that to me, the only thing that in a sense is beyond science, sort of, would be before the Big Bang. So when people say, I don't consider that a great argument, but it's in a sense a lot more, in other words, like the simplified version of a God is going to always be better than a God with a lot of detail. But the problem is a simplified version of God can't be distinguished from, in other words, if I say everything you see is God, okay, that's a harder thing to, in a sense, go after than if I say this one act, a volcano, equals God. So when people make it like like it's like somethingism. There's a religion people have where they say it's in Iceland, but people do it in other places also. Somethingism. It's where like hippie kind of people where they say, well, I don't know about what God is, any religion, but I know there's something, there's something out there. There's something bigger than us. There's a higher power. That's all somethingism. So that kind of a God, in a sense, is harder because there's nothing there in a sense. But to me, it's also not really much of an argument. It's just like I have feelings, and so I trust my feelings. It's not a great argument. It's a harder argument, kind of, because there's no meat there to, in a sense, go after as much. But like I said, to me, if you were to say what's a good argument, that's harder also is, like I said, before the Big Bang. Like when they say the first cause, I don't really consider that a good argument because I go, okay, here's an idea. Let's assume that the first cause was something that you can call God. Let's assume that, right? There's no way you can prove to me that God didn't kill itself the moment that it created the universe. And thus, the universe from that point on was atheistic. In other words, no God exists. So you can't, because let me tell you something. Everything from the Big Bang on has been what looks like atheistic, no God involved. It's all naturalistic, all evolution, the stars, the planets, everything in a sense evolves and forms, and then even a lot of the stuff, stars die. Planets are blown apart. So there's a natural order to things that just does not seem to have any sort of a supernatural anything. And to me, that's another thing that I have where people like go, well, you can't disprove a universal God. And I'm like, well, I don't understand what the big deal is as a rationalist, because I have not heard a claim yet that people consider a valid God that doesn't involve supernatural. And since there's no evidence of supernatural anywhere, not even a little small supernatural, even anything, the claim that there's great superpower supernatural when there's nothing is like the burden of proof is now beyond. You can't even show anything that is supernatural, let alone that there's some supernatural and that the whole world is full of supernatural. It's just like, you're done. I feel like you've because what you've said is an absurdity to me. It's like if I were to say, I now possess the Nile River in its full extent, miles long and everything, in my pocket. It is. The whole thing. Wet everything. There people are fishing inside my pocket as we speak.
Like the hardest pocket.
So I've said something that people, because I told us as Christian, they said, well, that's absurd. I said, so is the idea of supernatural. It's absurd. Mm-hmm. This is what people to me don't get. Logic demands that things are a certain way. Otherwise, then things. If I said you're going to, it's not illogical to say you're going to have wings tomorrow and become a dragon. You would say, "Oh, that's absurd. That's not going to happen," because there's limits to what reality allows. So they don't get that when you say supernatural, you have gone beyond the limits of reality.
That's actually the definition of supernatural. Above nature, beyond what is natural, what is normal.
Right.
That's kind of the literal definition of what that means. We've got about 10 minutes. We might go a little long because I don't have anywhere to go. If you don't have anywhere to go,
fine.
just don't know what's going on with the people.
Yeah.
I want to mention before we forget to tell people about our upcoming series.
Oh yeah.
If you would elaborate on that.
Well,
because you're into history.
Yeah, so it's our new show we're doing together is going to be called The History Voyagers. And it's basically that we're going to address the evolution of religion, and we're also going to address things like archaeology and anthropology and prehistory and history. And the biggest thing that I want to do is I want to armor our fellow atheists to understand where this stuff comes from. Because when you start understanding it more, you realize the flimsiness of these religions that are consisting today. They're like copies of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And so it's not like it all started 6,000 years ago. It starts way before this, and it's a slow process. And
That's what a lot of people
you guys are going to be starting with the Göbekli Tepe, right?
Correct. And the reason I would have, from my own personal choice, I would have started at, Homo Naledi and started there. But I wanted to start the show, our first couple shows on things people might know, because it will feel more approachable, because we're going to do 10 shows on it and explain all kinds of stuff that people don't know.
Just on Göbekli.
Yeah, on Göbekli Tepe, because people feel like I've watched a show before or a couple shows. I understand Göbekli Tepe. Well, there's still probably stuff that I'm going to explain that you don't know. That relate to Göbekli Tepe, or certainly maybe in a different way. And so
It has suggested that someone on this show, we probably ought to get Aaron Ra to join us, because he's really into history as well.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have him.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, we can have special guests on our show. Absolutely. But yeah, so I really want it to be educational, and so I really care about informing and stuff. So our first is going to be Göbekli Tepe, and then we're going to do the history of drugs in religion and in evolution, because actually Neanderthals at 58,000 years ago are the first ones evidence that there's first ones of taking drugs. And so there's a lot that I want to cover about drugs and stuff, because some people have I've heard before someone say that that religion and culture came about because we ate magic mushrooms. Well, that can't be so, because magic mushrooms were not taken, at least evidence-wise, we're not taken like through the whole of history, So they were taken, and certainly it's old, but it's probably, closer to, 20,000 or 10,000 or 15,000 or something, where it might have been taken, but the evidence, I think, actual is I think it's 8,000. I have to go look at it again, but it's not like it's not 58,000. So it's not like the Neanderthals were eating them.
Atheism Works would like to know what's your opinion of Graham Hancock.
He's a pseudo-historian that uses a lot of facts, but then some of his stuff is just, wrong. And Zachariah Hitchens, is also wrong. And Eric von Donigan is also, all these guys. And I just put a thing out on our page, History Voyagers, and said, beware of pseudo-history, which is actually something that, all religions to me hold three types of pseudo things. They have pseudo-history, pseudo-science, and pseudo-morality. And so, to me, they need to be, challenged and exposed for these things.
Right. Jay does a series of videos on signs and symbologies and histories of things.
Yeah, the latest one was on the swastika. My next one will be on the crescent moon.
Yeah, the swastika, as far as I remember, is about 12,000 years old, from Poland or the Balkans.
The Balkans, and it was. About 12 to 14, between 12 and 14,000 was the earliest It was on a little figurine they found.
Sounds about right.
It's probably the oldest, and it's in every religion in every culture. It's got that a version of the swastika.
Up until
World War II. No, and see, the funny thing is, researching that, I watched a video about in Japan, the younger generations now have no idea what the swastika used to represent. For them, it's a little emoji they use on their phone for like, hi, how you doing kind of thing.
Oh, that's funny.
It's called the amaji is what it's called over this. And it's like a good morning kind of thing, or like I'm having a good maji, and so, yeah, because they asked some college students in Japan, and they're like, yeah, that's the maji emoji. They had no idea. They kind of knew who Hitler was and whatnot, but they asked the older generations, they right off the bat knew exactly who it was, what it stood for.
Oh, yeah.
Because in different cultures, a lot of the older cultures are taking it back. The Hindus are taking it back. The Buddhists, we're taking it back. In fact, once I get the courage, I will be getting a swastika tattoo added to my arm, but I've got to get it done right.
Right. Atheism Works says the difference between the original swastikas and the Nazi one is that the Nazis tilted it. Kind of one of the things is I believe if you go throughout history and look at the swastika, it's been tilted, turned around, upside down, backwards. They've done it tons and tons of different ways.
Well, in like Buddhism and Hinduism, not that I don't want to get too involved in this. Depending on which direction it faces, it means something different.
See?
True.
Yeah.
Left or if it's facing left, it means this. If it's facing right, it means this. But,
True.
Yeah, that's a whole.
And the oldest yin and yang symbol actually comes from the Balkans, also, or over near just south or part of Ukraine.
Yeah, that one's good. That one's on the list to do too next. But I had a request for the crescent moon to do that next, and oddly enough, I've got the research started, and I'm finding an awful lot of stuff that I was not aware of.
Yeah,
that's why I like doing the symbols. So.
Oh yeah, I have a whole a video and a blog that goes with it in a sense about the origin of language, and I go back 100,000 years ago and I explain a whole bunch of stuff in symbols. So I can get it to you and let you check it out if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Miss Kristen was asking if you've heard of Ocean Kelto. I've heard of him. Have you heard of? I think it's Keltoi.
Ocean Keltoi.
Ocean Keltoi. Have you heard of him, Damien?
No.
He's a really fun guy. He's a pagan, of the Norse variety pagan, and I think you would enjoy. I mean, he's just fun, and he knows a lot about the history of his own religion.
Right, paganism. Yeah.
And the reason why this kind of strikes me is because you and I were talking about how, well, actually, what you told me was essentially the history of paganism and where it comes from and how it comes from places. This right here.
Yeah, it comes from Turkey.
Gobekli Tepe.
Yeah, I think that Gobekli Tepe is the transition point from basically shamanism and early paganism. Like it was a little bit of both, sort of. It wasn't, and then slowly, as agriculture in the area took off, and it evolved to just full-on paganism. And then Çatalhöyük actually is where then paganism, that variety, goes into Europe, into the Balkans, and spreads out. And it also, so it goes two ways, one by land, one by sea. And that's why places like Sardinia and stuff had Turkish influence, and the early pagans, agriculture, religion, and then it goes to Spain, and then it goes over to Ireland and Scotland and England from this, ocean going, type of people that left Turkey.
Yeah. So I think as far as the pagan stuff, I think you and he would have a wonderful conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, and this is one of the reasons I didn't tell anybody I was doing, I certainly didn't tell Damien, I just surprised you. One of the reasons why I brought Jay in was, so Jay could interact, and of course they have the beards. I'm feeling a little underwhelming, in the beard department. But I get to talk to Damien all the time. He and I are planning this series together. We're working together. We video chat for about an hour a day unless something comes up. So me and this guy have talked, and he's still got lots of things. That's why I brought Jay in, thinking Jay could give us a different perspective instead of just it being me and ye.
Right.
Going. But now he shows up and he's got this long, luscious beard, and I'm just kind of feeling inadequate up here. I even trimmed mine this morning. I should have not. A little more wild, man. Yeah. So Ocean, I would enjoy you to visit with Ocean. I would like to get Ocean on the show. This is a hard hour for some folks.
Yeah, it's early in the morning. Like for me, it's 9 a.m. right now. But for like some other people, like when you get like the East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast.
Yeah, it's like 4. It's like just now 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I think 5. Yeah, the show starts at 5 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast. I think, or West Coast. I'm sorry.
West Coast.
Yeah. So which is still an ungodly hour. It's an ungodly hour.
Right.
Obviously, I'd love to have Damien back on the show and more. I just want to get everything in before we wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned hair. I always say I got the third best hair on the internet.
Okay.
The only ones that beat me is Neil, the 604 Atheist, and Aaron Rock.
Yeah, well, wait till you meet Neil. Neil, he probably is listening. He works in a lab doing something. And cool. He's got that show. I am going to hook you two up, Damien, because I think you'd really enjoy it. Now, his show is quite popular, and he is booked out probably into April, or through April. I'm going to be on his show sometime this month, and I've been waiting to be on his show for
yeah, I know when I got booked, it was the end of November, and I wasn't able to get on till the beginning of February.
But I suspect, you'll be around because we're going to be doing. It's going to take us. I'm going to start recording my first part of the History Voyagers today, probably most likely. You'll have yours recorded throughout the week. I'll edit it throughout the week. We may drop that hopefully this weekend.
Yeah, well, I was thinking like Wednesday for me, but yeah.
Now, where can you find that?
I've got links in the description below, but Damien has created its own separate channel, separate from his channel, separate from my History Voyagers. And you can find it there. And he's also got a Facebook page set up. We both moderate that.
And
sub number 8.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I got sub number 8.
Right on.
There you go. We got 8 subscribers already.
Right on. But we have about 550 on our Facebook page. So, yeah. And I have some articles in my blogs and stuff up on there.
Yeah, he's got this man is very what's the word? Prolific. This guy is prolific. He writes. You're like, hey, can you send me an article about this thing? And he's like, here's 9 articles I've written on that. And you open each one of them's a 37,000 word article.
I was already following the Facebook page.
It's like,
cool.
A wall of text. I'm like, dude, he's got a lot to say. This is going to be a lot of fun. He's already done all the research. We're going to crank out these videos. I mean, just like we said, Göbekli Tepe is going to be a 10 video series. Göbekli Tepe is 11,000 years ago to 10.5 to about 10,000 years ago. That's long before any of these other more modern religions come up. We're not. Our job is not to sit around knocking religion. That's not what we're doing.
Right.
We're talking about history and what happened at these places and how they led from A to B to C. The head bone connects to the neck bone, connects to the knee bone. Kind of
right. Well, we're going to say that we don't believe them, but yeah, we're not going to be sitting there and bashing them and ripping them apart. It's more an educational than it's going to be educational by atheists. And as opposed to people that are theists, and it's going to be mildly, exposing of religion, but that's not like the major thing. Although, like I said, I will say, the Eric, von Donigan and whatever Graham, pseudo historians.
And the Anunnaki's not true.
Absolutely is not true. It's some total nonsense. Well, first off, just to say, his idea of that, beyond everything else, doesn't match what the tablets say by all Assyriologists that can read, cuneiform. They all say something different. So he's already wrong right there. Just forget if the story is true. It's not. But even what he says, the story, well, where are you getting this? You supposedly can read this text and every other person reading it is wrong. It's a professional and dude, no. Yeah. Just give it up. But also there's a bunch of things, like he says there's a planet, that can be seen, I can't remember now, every 50 years or something.
Oh, Nibiru.
Nibiru. Right. NASA has already said
like 30,000 years or something like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So NASA has already wrote something before, and it's in my article about debunking ancient aliens. But they've come out and said this is not true. So I mean, there's multiple. Like someone tried to argue me. I posted that these are pseudo historians in this archaeological group, and they're like, I have 25 likes about me saying that, but then I have like about 15 people that are arguing with me that think, that these people, well, they still say some good stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's not how you evaluate things. But
I would just point out, Brother John here asked, he said, good show. Damien is an interesting dude. He's sub to you, by the way. And he wants to know why we would have Ocean, a polytheist, on an atheist show. And this is the same guy who, by the way, asked the other day if he could be on the show. And I said, dude, send me an email at chris@chrismallard.com and I will let you be on the show. Yeah. Even if you're Christian. As far as I know, he's called Brother John.
I'm a secular Buddhist.
He's a secular Buddhist. So we're not like that. That's not now.
Well, yeah, because I think that like even me, like someone said before, I'm a firebrand atheist. Yes, I am. I'm a caring firebrand atheist. And if you don't remember that I'm the caring firebrand atheist, then you're really missing the point. That what I am is I'm hard on ideas, but I'm kind to people. Right. So I don't believe in religions, but I do believe in people.
Raven says it best. She says because it's about open-mindedness, not anti-Christian.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can't believe you're not a part of this community.
That I'm not?
You don't know these people.
Oh.
I mean, there's a group of people out here that need to. You're so good at this. I've already talked to Damien a couple of times, and in our discussions, and I've been like, dude, you need to have your own stream. You've got so much to get out there. You need to do the thing.
Yeah, I have my own YouTube, and I have I think like 100 videos on there, or more. It must be more than that, because I've done like 100 interviews of people. I've interviewed people, but I interview like anthropologists, psychologists. I've other people. Some people they're religious. In fact, one lady, she was a theist, but she wanted to try to not use. And I said, hey, let's do this. We'll talk about your book and because she's about positive thinking and stuff. And we'll talk about your book. Let's just both not mention. I won't mention atheism, and you won't mention. And halfway through, she says something about, well, you know how you have to trust, and trust in God. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what a God is. He was like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. But it was funny because she said, wow, I never realized how hard it is not to bring that up. And so, but it was actually, I think, good for her because she had felt, because a lot of people that are theists do, that it's so normal to be a theist to them. It's so accepted and normalized in culture that they just see it as normal. Like my mom, she's a total theist, religious fanatic Christian. And when she answers the phone, her thing says, hello, Jesus loves you. And then, wow. In fact, when I was younger, I had friends that would call, back when I was a Christian, my friends would call. They thought I got a church, they'd hang up. They didn't know it was our home phone had that. So, but my thing, my thing is I'm not a hate theist. I even though I'm an anti-religionist, I'm anti-ideas that are harmful. I'm anti-ideas that are not supported. But I always tell people I don't attack believers. That's not my thing.
Right. Well, I get past. I'm one of the reasons why I don't like to debate is because I'm not a skilled debater as far as lining out this your argument, blah blah blah, this argument. The other reason is because I'm very passionate, and I'm very likely to go, you know what, you're just wrong, dude. You're just idiot. That's, I just want to do that so bad in my soul. So I'm not a very good debater, but I've been talking to Damien, and I understand what he's talking. I've seen other people do something similar, where rather than engage somebody, they kind of just let the other person play themselves out. And I thought if I could learn that, I would be much better off and more willing to debate people. Because, even though I feel like I'm right, I don't like just yelling at people. That doesn't help.
Well, it would be more humanist, and I really promote humanism.
Yeah.
So to me, and I feel this too. My goal is not to push atheism. My goal is to push reason, and then reason will do the job to help you figure out what should be believed. My secondary goal is to promote humanism. Whether or not you become an atheist, I sure hope you become a humanist. And that is true if you're religious or not. I hope you become a humanist. I hope you see the value of people as greater than the value of some idea you hold. I mean, it just, humans have value. An idea is a non-tangible thing and should not be more important as a value than a human life. And so to me, my goal is to promote humanism, to kindness. And so that should also be, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it should be something that, not just a word, but is something that something about Damien is different. Damien is doing something, thinking, behaving in a way that is congruent with humanism. Not just that Damien likes it as a clutch word. I want people to go, wow, I felt important or cared about or listened to. I want to value the person. To me, like I said, I try not to stop seeing the dignity being that they are. And that helps me.
You kind of got the same way I'm trying to approach everything now. Because my family growing up, we were not religious. My mom had went to church when she was younger, but that was it. But my parents, one's a pagan, one's a Wiccan. My sister's a Wiccan. My other sister's a Christian. My other sister's a Mormon. And then I'm a secular Buddhist.
Right.
So my family is a big, diverse, and we all get along. I mean, yeah, we squabble and fight like family does, but nobody's pushing that, where you see, like you see somebody that's Christian is going to marry somebody that's not a Christian, and that family's fighting all the time.
Right.
That doesn't happen in my family. So I didn't come from a religious background. I only came into Buddhism about 8 years ago, 7-8 years ago. And so I'm coming into this community with two different mindsets. I've got the no religious growing up mindset, and then the Buddhist mindset. So
right.
So that's where I feel I can help with this community, because I don't have an issue if you want to believe. My issue is when you want to force.
Oh, absolutely, because that's anti-humanism. You've denied someone else their dignity rights of their own mind. I mean, and that's why, like my mom told me before. My mom, when I first became an atheist, practically disowned me. And then a month later, she called back and said, I guess I'll accept you. And I said, if you're going to have to do that, I've done nothing wrong. If you have to feel that way, then I guess we can't talk. She didn't talk to me for another month, and then she's like, okay, I love you no matter what. And I was like, well, good, because that's what you should do anyways. I mean, but then she tried to challenge me, and I'm very, good at, and I knew a bunch of stuff, and so she lost pitifully. And she's then later, she was amazed by my atheism, and she said, I really appreciate that you don't attack me. And I said, well, not to be, funny, but it's not special to you. I try to treat every religious person like that. It's not like I just treat my mom this way. I want to be a humanist, period. So I have people on people are always surprised that some of the people on my Facebook are religious. Well, I can almost guarantee they're humanistic also, because that's probably what they really like about me. Not so much my atheism, but that my humanitarianism and my, humanism.
Yeah, Raven corrected me. It's been 11 years.
Right on.
I don't know if you're able to follow the chat, but I am Raven, the lady named I am Raven in the chat. Damien,
I don't see any chat.
Oh, you don't see any chat? That's Mrs. J.
Okay, right on. Yeah, so I've told people on thing, because once again I am a firebrand, in a sense, but I'm a caring firebrand. So like I said, hard on ideas, but kind to people. So I've told people that I would prefer to hang out with a humanistic religious person than an anti-humanistic atheist, because you're going to offend my core of what I think is right to do. Your thinking beliefs, once again, your atheism somehow didn't supersede human life. So people that care about real humans in a real way, those are my kind of people. I like people that volunteer their time, and I've done this. Volunteer for children, volunteer for homeless. If you're going to help the elderly or help society, that's my kind of people. In fact, I volunteered at a Catholic thing for children after school, but I did it as an open atheist and anti-religionist. I mean, I told them, they said, well, you're an atheist. Well, I'm an axiological atheist. I actually find the whole idea of God repugnant. The idea of God, to me, God is a title. It's not, in a sense, a name. It's a title of ownership. It's a title of leadership. It's a title that generally, not in every case, but means that this being outside of me can actually control or decide my rights. I don't like that in any context. And so the fact of you saying that this thing is doing this, it doesn't make it better if you call it a God, in a sense. So the idea of God isn't, to me, an anti-humanistic by nature, because it's a thing that actually can violate human rights at will without our consent. Right. But it's funny, I said that to them. I mean, I told the Catholics that. And they're like, well, can you respect Catholics? I go, absolutely, I'm a humanist. So, I mean, I'm just telling you how I see it. And I thought it was very interesting and healthy for them, because they got to see me interact with children and be a real leader. I help in the art department because I'm good at art. And they said, you're really a good leader. And they were really impressed with my ability to work with children and stuff. And it's not impressive to me because it's just my humanism. I know people, that's what I think that the problem is. That's why I think that I have a good message for firebrands, because before, the opinion is you're either a non-firebrand caring person or you're a firebrand asshole. And I want to come in and go, I think that's a false dichotomy. We can be hard on ideas, but absolutely humanistic to people. I mean, I don't see where there should be an issue. I mean, I understand that's not the norm before at sometimes, but I think it should be. Yeah,
absolutely.
So to me, like I've repeated before, what's my goal? My goal is human flourishing. My goal, and to me, that has to happen in humanism, whether or not there's atheism, right? So whether or not there's atheism, we're going to need humanism. I mean, that is a core necessity for us to really flourish.
They're not required for each other, and they're not mutually exclusive.
Correct. But I'm just saying, without the question or with the question of atheism, to live in this world, the most flourishing benefit is going to happen through humanism, not through war and not through hate or selfishness. Selfishness is not going to, bring about, positive change in the world.
Do you still debate people, or how often do you debate? Are you open to being debated with somebody?
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely open to being debated by anybody, Christian, atheist. I mean, it makes agnostic. I had a guy who's an atheist that wanted to debate me about anti-theism. No problem. I'll debate anybody. But this is the thing is, I like discussions. I feel like it's more beneficial. So I won't do like a Matt Dillahunty type of debate where he mostly does. I'm willing to go on a stage with somebody, anybody, and I'm willing to go on a stage and challenge Matt Dillahunty about beliefs. I'm willing to take anybody on, but it has to be, to me, in an honest, just open discussion.
Right. Those are the ones that I prefer. I do not like the here's 5 minutes for you.
I don't
here's
like it
10
either.
minutes for response. I hate those.
Yeah.
For me, nothing ever gets done in those. When you sit down and have a conversation with somebody, like what I'm doing, what I do now on my channel is I'm setting up conversations between people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the second one I had happened to be with Darth Dawkins, but we won't get into that one.
He doesn't. That's the whole deal. He doesn't know who Darth Dawkins is.
I don't.
You don't want to know.
It's not a conversation. You want to have a conversation with the guy, but he's got a script and he's trying to work you towards a certain direction so you can admit certain things.
And if you try to answer before he's ready, you're interrupting him. Why won't you let me speak? Some of the chat watched it last weekend, and they'll tell you I didn't put up with it. I kept muting him and telling him, no, you need to move on. You're not going to monologue because that's what he'll do. And those are the conversations I don't like. I like when somebody sits down with another person and it's just a back and forth conversation.
Absolutely.
Because that's when ideas get tossed around. That's when people see other people's sides of things. Not the 5 minutes, here's my opening speech. Here's 5 minutes, here's my opening speech. After an hour, nothing's been accomplished other than you know what he thinks and you know what he thinks, but there was nothing agreed upon, nothing discussed.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't personally myself classify it as nothing good happening. I'm just saying, to me, something, people can watch it and then be convinced or not convinced by arguments or whatever. But to me, I like genuine. And I agree with you when it's too scripted. Yes, we can all throw, like if I do archaeology, I have, an archaeology book, the Oxford Handbook of Archaeology and Religion that's 1,100 pages long. But have you read this book? Would it be that beneficial if I were to start reading and quoting from this? This book costs $200 on Amazon. Are you going to go out and buy it to then challenge me? So is it, in other words, so just because I can present an argument, it may not really be a good conversation. So I would rather, even though I know all this and I can cite stuff, why do that? I try to have a genuine conversation, and I don't try to bum rush people with 10,000 facts I know, which I know a lot, because it needs to be about you and me. Because I know a lot of it comes down to, what are you talking about? How do you know that? And why is what you just offered valuable? And so to me, that's the stuff that, we should be getting into and having a real conversation instead of, these presented ideas, which, like I said, I do think it has some value. It certainly is not anything I feel that I want to do. I have one debate, and the guy lied in the debate, pissed me off. I'm a little bit better than that now, but he's Christian. Pissed me off, and I said, you know what, I'm done with you. I have a video debate. It has about 10,000 views, I think. It was a guy in Canada who was a fanatic, because I went to a Canadian convention. They start talking about how this guy out in Alberta is like this, religious nutcase that went in front of Calgary Stampede and got arrested for holding Jesus signs illegally. And I go, oh, that sounds like my kind of guy. I'm going to go and take that guy on. And so I challenged him to a debate, but he made a comment. He said all atheists that he's ever talked to, say that they do believe in a God. And I said, well, then they're not atheists. I mean, they're a definition. And I said, that's not true. And then I said, where did you come up with this? And he's like, well, it's in the Bible. Paul said. And then I go, you know what? Read the verse out loud to all of us. And I was like, sounds like Paul is a lot more epistemically honest and intellectually honest than you. Paul said he feels like atheists believe. You said different. Paul is being a lot more honest. If you said you feel it, that's different.
Right. And it's not uncommon for a theist for it to be hard for them to imagine that even if you're an atheist, you really don't believe. It's hard for them to imagine sometimes. I get that.
No, right. But he was saying it's a fact that we all.
That's a fact. True.
And I'm like, that's not true. I'm not going to accept that. They did. The Pew Research did a thing of what atheists, believe. And surprisingly, I think it was like 9% of people that say they're, self-claimed atheists believe in a, what do they say? I'm trying to say it right. Something like a higher being or something, or the possibility of a higher being or something. Well, let's just say that 9% believe in a God. Okay, so 9%. Is that all? Is that what this guy said? No. So this guy's wrong. And I don't agree but those 9% of people don't know what atheism is, obviously. They're thinking there's something still out there. Then they're not correct in labeling themselves as atheists. But even if that was so, it still does not support what he claimed, that all atheists, and I'm like, dude, I have thousands of people that are atheists that follow me and talk to me all the time, and I'm telling you, never have I heard any atheists say that deep down they believe in a God. What? No. Like, wrong, dude. And so I was like, I said, you need to apologize for lying in this debate. I won't keep debating you in an intellectually dishonest way. I won't do it. And so but now what I would do is more my hammer of truth. I would say, well, what do you mean by this? How do you talk about this? What I would probably do a little bit better, but he's still really I hate people just flat out lying like that. It made me so upset because you are pushing complete nonsense. Atheists do not believe in God. I mean,
that's like saying, I know you say you're a Christian, but deep down in your heart, we know you don't really believe in a God.
Yeah, exactly.
All Christians, no Christians believe in a God deep down in their heart, right? And we know this to be a fact. And we established.
Wouldn't he get mad? Or wouldn't he? Of course he would. You would be like, what the hell? So, it's still a good video. But it made me realize though also I don't like this trying to present things. I just didn't feel like it achieved what I wanted to, and I wanted to have a real conversation. So I realized I'm going to debate people, but I'm going to tell them it has to be discussion debates. You can have a moderator if you want. That doesn't bother me, but it has to be not this like you said, that you have to put 10 minutes and then the other person gets 5-minute rebuttal. And I don't. That doesn't, for me at least. Like I said, I don't think it has no value, but it's just not what I want to do with what I think is valuable.
Right. Yeah, I understand. I just don't think I'd be very good at that part of it.
I think you would, because I think that you seem like a caring guy. So I think that you just need to, it's like being a counselor. When someone comes up and you're a counselor and says, that they've had this or that happen, you start with compassion. You start with this desire to understand. And so I don't think it's beyond you. I think it's that you haven't been, in a sense, instructed on how to do it. And
right. Well, I meant how to go on and be on the actual rigid debate format.
Oh, rigid debate form, yeah. Obviously, I don't either.
Too passionate for that.
Did you say too Catholic for that?
Passionate.
Oh, passionate. It sounded like you said I'm too Catholic for that. I'm like, what?
Well, that's what Jesus wanted you to hear. When I said passionate.
Oh, that's right.
You're supposed to convert to Catholicism.
Yep.
Jesus has spoken. Here on my show. Thank you, everybody. Well, that kind of comes up because I was helping Miss Best Name Ever, Miss Kristen, to moderate a channel yesterday, and one guy called in and he was talking about, I think he had heard there's this song that it's not in the lyrics, but if you listen to the words, it actually says his name. It's, and because he heard that I think at a certain time, that was the miracle from God that meant XY. See, and the people on the show just kind of tore that whole. It was Talk Heathen, I think, maybe. Yeah, it was Talk Heathen. They just tore that whole idea down. That was pretty good to watch. So, you know what, guys? We have run almost half hour over. Thank you for everybody wonderful. For sticking with us, and for Damien showing up, for Jay, for meeting Damien. I kind of wanted Jay to I kind of want Damien to meet
the world.
These people. A lot of these people in this sphere that, like Neil. Now, hopefully I can get Damien on Neil's show, and, we can help grow Neil's or Damien's, of course, me and Damien are working on stuff together. The history.
Yeah, I can't wait for that because I'm really interested in Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
So,
right, which is, and do you know about Çatalhöyük also?
The name's familiar.
So Göbekli Tepe is, in a sense, to me, is the first pagan temple, in a sense. Çatalhöyük is the first religious design city where they have, in a sense, a little pagan thing in every home, a little temple like in the home.
Oh, where is that one?
It's in Turkey also, but
Turkey, okay.
But so it's like this: Göbekli Tepe is here, and then Çatalhöyük is here, and Çatalhöyük, the concepts of this and the DNA and the agriculture and the animal husbandry are how Europe got everything. It all came. They know genetically from the source. The cows came from there, originally from Iran, but then they went to Turkey and then got to Çatalhöyük, and then from Çatalhöyük they went to Greece, actually Thessalonian or whatever it is, and then from there the DNA into all European stuff. And so, and then also the grains go from there, and then the agriculture, religion, and ritual goes from Çatalhöyük over. So Turkey has the influence that then made, but it also goes south because then it goes to the Egyptians. The Egyptian wheat is traced to the Levant or Israel, somewhere Syria, but originally it was domesticated in Çatalhöyük or somewhere else in southeast Turkey. And the same with the cows and the cow worship and the rituals that they use in Egypt, the early Egypt, not like later, but like pre-dynastic, Egypt, and early dynastic Egypt has a lot more influence still from Turkey. But and then also the Sumerians before them, the Sumerians took up the area that basically people from migrated from southern Turkey into the area, or at least influenced the people that took up that area. So the religion follows. And it just spreads out from there. Then it also goes east to China and stuff. So this one, area, Turkey, ends up, or Aunt Nola that the archaeologists want to constantly say, because they say Turks didn't invent their religion. Turks came in way after, which is true. The Turks did, but landmass of Turkey. So.
Cool. I need to get you at the table.
Cool.
Yeah.
At the pool table. At the pool table is where I'm going to start doing one-on-one, me and then another guest, just talking back and forth.
Cool.
My at the table is where I have my conversations. So
right on.
At the pool table is So I'll get a hold of you on Twitter. And
Twitter's the least. I don't follow anyone on Twitter, and I almost never am on Twitter. I have a Twitter, but it posts directly from Facebook. If you want to find me, Facebook is where you go.
Facebook, gotcha.
Or everyone, if they want to contact me, I have a website, Damien Marie AtHope, and it's DAM.
Is there a contact form there?
What's that?
There's a contact form there. They can get you at your.
Well, at the bottom of that page, you can go. I'll also say my email. My email is my name, Damien.Marie.AtHope@gmail.com, and my website is Damien Marie AtHope with no spaces or dots. And then .com.
I have the link to that down in the
That's
description.
my website. But you can just do Damien Marie AtHope on a Google search, and I'll be all over the place.
Well, I found your website, and it's got a thing where I can just email you. So
correct. Right
okay,
on.
so conversations. This is what I Am Raven says. Your conversation sections are for dissenting viewpoints, like Darth Dawkins and Chris the Atheist Pastor. The pool table is for open-minded discussions.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Ask her. She knows. She knows best.
And I'm also willing to be on anyone else's show if you want. I mean,
I'll help with that.
Yeah. I like talking about the subject of myself.
Yeah. So
I want to talk about ancient history.
Right. Yes, I know a lot about ancient, and I love that too.
I just want to point out. Here's another atheist with atheist tattoos on his wrist.
Yeah.
So. That's all the cool people are doing it. I'm just saying.
Right on. That like I said, I can send you the article to that yin and yang symbols origin, or at least the first evidence of it and what culture it was in.
I'm afraid if I go here, it'll just keep on, but that's fine because it's fun. I just want to point out that Easism works. He's an artist. He's wonderful. He's doing some art working with me. He wanted to point out that Göbekli means mound or hill with no hump, something like that. And that's right up. You've been telling me that about.
Yeah. Well, Tepe, the last part, it could be put to anything. Tepe means like a human created mound. Usually means as cultural layers or different layers of human occupation. Or human, settlement, or human design, or something human created. That's what a tepe is, and then Göbekli is like belly, or pot belly, or like some sort of a thing like that. And
now it's true that they've only unearthed just a small portion of that.
Yes,
because from what I understand, I mean it's a pretty big section that they've unearthed, but the Göbekli itself is massive from what they're guessing.
Yeah, I think it's 16 to 24 things, and they've only uncovered 3, or something like, or 4 or something like that. There's going to be a long time because archaeology goes really, really slow. But that's how they find stuff.
do they plan on unearthing the whole thing?
Oh, yes.
I thought they were only planning on unearthing just a small section of it.
No. Well, they only do one small section at a time. That's what archaeology does, which is important.
Well, I understand that, but I thought to keep it preserved, they were just going to unearth the one section and leave the rest the way it was.
No, I've not heard nothing about that. I've heard the opposite. Well, and they've already there's a Göbekli Tepe museum nearby where they actually have reconstructed, in a fake, but inside the thing, so you could walk around, what it would have looked like. But it's a good thing they went slow too, because they found other artifacts and things, like they found evidence of the skull cult, where skulls had been tied to like ropes and hung somehow on something, and they've found figurines, and they found stone heads. Like there's a whole bunch of heads that are removed, just like the skull cult, where they just take your skull and they since it's ancestor worship, veneration. They do this with the figurines. This includes even little, like what they call goddess figurines or Venus figurines. A lot of times, not the old ones, because this is before paganism, but after paganism, in the skull cult, breaking the heads off seems to be a theme. Like in other words, like probably, and I don't know exactly, this is where this thing, like Graham and those guys, they do too much of trying to tell the full thing, which is too much of to me of I don't know, I'm assuming, and so I do think stuff. It's not like I don't have beliefs of what they may have done, but I don't try to go too detailed, because I try to, like a logical jump is that you stand on a fact and you can kind of lean out. When you are stepping off the fact and just floating in space, I feel like that's just too much. So I do know that it's more than likely breaking off the head and then like putting in a grain bin was probably a ritual. They did something like, and they remembrance or whatever, or ancestor. And I think that the first deities that were human were female. And I do think that they probably were ancestors that were deified, or shaman females in the pagan religion that was emerging, or priestesses that then become, these venerated ancestors that then become later. Because in other words, like say if it's in your family, it's like an ancestor. But if it's part of our culture and it's not my direct family, and maybe it's 10 generations later or whatever. I now see it as like this clan, ancestor sort of. And then after that, you can see where then even when I feel outside or tell someone about it, it's our special person, like a deity. So I think that it kind of is like that. I don't think that, to me personally, all the figurines are deities. I think that's an error, because we need to see context. Like ones that they placed in grain bins, it could have been ancestor worship. I think it's more likely that a deity who's in charge of the grains, because a lot, like all grains in a sense have goddess names, and the rain up above, like the bulls, they call it the bull, goddess and the bull, because the bull was considered to be like the male god and would rain, the water, and then the wheat would then grow in a sense. So when you see that they're working together, so it has a male and female, but it's male animal, female plant in a sense going on, which is weird, which is interesting too, because what they would, like, there's a statement in paganism like as above, so below, which is interesting is they probably, to me, we know for a fact in the Balkans that they started using manure. I think it's 7,000 years ago or 6,800 or something like that. I have an article on it where they genetically analyzed that they were doing this. I don't know that they knew that it had a value at first. I think it probably was the belief that the bull, as above, so below. Here's a bull, we take its shit and we give it to these mother plants and they seem to like it. I bet they also put the blood down there too. Poured blood right in the, the things probably, because once again, it's this type of thinking. Like I said, I do know for a fact they found the manure. So that's a fact. It's my speculation that they probably did the blood as well. After they kill it and slaughter it, they would collect the blood because the blood was sacred, put it with the plants, put the shit with the plants. They're thinking they're following the deity in the sky, I would assume. And anyways, but so you take the facts, and I've learned a lot of facts that are weird like that, like, learning about where they put shit, because I want to understand what they did and the mindset of why they did it.
Right.
So,
Raven said she'd love to see a conversation between you and Trevor Valley.
Cool. Sure.
Do you know who he is?
No, I don't.
He's an archaeologist. He was director of the La Brea Tar Pits for a few years.
Right on. Sounds cool.
He's been on the Joe Rogan show. He was when Non Sequitur was around. He was on there a couple times doing debates. Really good guy. Really knows his stuff.
Cool. Is he a theist? Or an atheist?
No, I don't think he is.
I'll talk to either one. I'll talk to an archaeologist as a theist. I'll talk to an archaeologist as an atheist. I have LinkedIn I have like 7,000 people following me on LinkedIn, and a lot of them, if you look, a lot of my people are archaeologists and anthropologists.
Yeah, she said, like she was saying, it would be. Yeah, she says he is an atheist, but just because she's listening to you sounds a lot like what Trevor does when he starts going in on something, and it's just a whole lot of information coming at you that you're just listening, just absorbing this in, going, just give me more. Just give more. Trevor's got that same feel, and he's got the goatee that's usually his is like neon green.
Oh, right on. Oh yeah, I'd love to talk to him. I absolutely. That's why I wanted to have the History Voyager show. I feel like I know all this stuff and I have blogs on it, but a lot of people don't even know about me or know what I've done. And I had a show where Aaron Ra, interviews me on my stuff. And, really, really lightly, but interviews me on my, evolution of religion knowledge and stuff, because I wanted to explain it to people. Yeah, I really want to talk about this. I know some very interesting stuff that I've been researching for a long, long time. And I really dig archaeology and history. I mean, beyond even being an atheist, I just find it cool. I like learning shit. It's awesome.
There are people, that we find people, we hear stories of this woman who was dug up, and this was her name, and these are her baubles and the things that she had. She lived so many hundreds or thousands of years ago, and if it weren't for history people, she would have been completely forgotten.
Yeah. And
now her name is being spoken. But it's people who love history and people who record history that, to me, are important, because I love history so much. I'm a real fan of history. That's why whenever Damien asked me, he's like, do you want to work with me on this show about history and religion? I'm like, hell yeah.
Well, and you've been really, really great too. I really appreciate your help and stuff and working with me and coming up with ideas. I feel like it's been a fun, collaborative, process. And,
that's
it almost looks like me a little bit.
Yeah.
What is it, like a theme? Yeah, hell yeah.
Didn't you?
That's from him on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Right on.
We'll have to get him on the show.
Yeah, no, I would love to talk to him. Hell yeah. Like I said, I would enjoy talking to a theist that's archaeologist. I mean, I don't have in fact I do have one where I do talk to an archaeologist that's a theist. And then first he tries to challenge me. Then I said, Israel Finkelstein was uncovering the Bible and stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, that guy's credible. Because he tried to, because probably he's used to dealing with people that don't know what they're talking about or don't know archaeology. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I mean, I sometimes, I know so much, it's hard. Sometimes my brain starts swimming. I have all these facts all over the place. It's hard for me to remember names without reading them, but yeah.
Sorry, I was looking up Trevor because there was one thing I want to remember. He did a thing in National Geographic on mammoths on Earth.
Cool.
And on the History Channel on prehistoric LA and the history of the world in 2 hours.
Right on.
Hey, we're talking about Göbekli Tepe.
Yes.
One of the oldest temples, but it's not the oldest. We only started there because people are more familiar with it. Here in just a second, Damien, if you'll tell us what the oldest one is. But Miss Kristen was saying, I noticed she's in the thing. She's thinking maybe China would have the world's oldest temples, but actually the people moved out of Africa into the Middle East, and from the Middle East is where the oldest temples began, and then they spread to China, spread to the Europe, and back down towards, you know what I mean? So yeah, the oldest temple is actually where?
Well, it would depend. Like Göbekli Tepe is the full blown temple, definitely, but in Kor Tepe, which is a little bit north and east, it actually has stuff that ritual and a lot of stuff right before in a sense Göbekli Tepe started doing stuff. But there's also like I can talk about China. So China has like the oldest pots. I think it's like 20,000 years old for like cooking meat. So in a sense, that's kind of culture. But they didn't actually invent pottery because in Czechoslovakia, at 23,000 years ago, is the first use of, in a sense, cooking pottery. But it wasn't for like regular use. It was to make these female figurines. They made shitloads of them.
I don't blame them. It's like.
But to me, those female figurines, people don't. There's a whole like archaeological study of the figurines themselves that have been done, and even though like most of them are female, they're not like all young. It ranges the whole womanhood in a sense, like child sort of or almost to like elder female adult. So it's not. So I don't think it's like people say they're all fertility. I don't agree. That cannot possibly be, unless you mean the whole life cycle of a female.
Of course, so there's more to the woman than just her fertility.
Yeah, I'm not saying. Well, this is the problem though. Like once again, I'm not saying it's all or nothing. I'm not saying that it isn't fertility, but I do not buy for 1 second that it's all fertility. That's just wrong. It cannot be that. Some has to be ancestor worship or something, because the elder woman with their boobs hanging way down, gigantic, overweight and stuff, and older. I mean, it's not possible that person is still producing children. So there's no value if it's only fertility. It's something beyond that. And then there's ones that are too young. These ones they look like little girls. They're not going to more than, it's not impossible, I guess, but it's less likely that that's the thing. And it's not like they were attracted to say only fat, so there's only fat ones. It's not because the young ones are generally thin, so it's showing more like a life progression. So there's more going on than just saying it's. But I understand to talk to most people, just saying fertility seems like a simpler answer. That's also a simple answer to call them all goddess figurines. I don't believe they are. I don't believe that because think of this. Does all shamanism have to have a god? And the answer is no. And even when they say God, their concept can be completely different. It can be more like pantheism, where they kind of think that nature is a god, sort of, or something like the sun. They have Tan in the Chinese, which is like the sun, and the Mongolians also the great sky. They worship like the sky itself. But I don't know if you can call that a god, because it's not in a sense creating, it's not in a sense directly interacting with you. But so what I mean by that is because of the diffusion of how they believe in gods, it gives you kind of an idea in their evolution that wasn't the mainstay. Because if it went out and like polytheism, if it went out and they had to have gods, then they would have gods. It's like, why would they not, or have these such abstruse gods that aren't even like gods almost? Like one say, well, the raven, I think over there in far west far west Russia, they have an island where they have these shamans. They're some of the most oldest indigenous people in the area. They think the raven is kind of like a god, but it's not like they worship it. It's not like it invents or creates anything in a sense. It's like the sacred thing. But so when you hear them explain it, you're like, yeah, that kind of is almost not like a god, sort of. It's almost like this spirit being or something. Because there's certainly, we believe in ghosts and demons and angels, not me personally, but I'm saying people that are theists. So if they believe that there's different kind of supernatural agents, they're not all God, right? Angels are not gods, right? Demons are not gods, correct? Right. So just saying that these other religions have other spirits is not the same as saying that all these other spirits have to be a god. I think that is a bias that too many people have. So, anyways, I can go on and on, but I just wanted to say that I do like some of the thoughts people have, and then some of the thoughts I'm like, yeah, that's just not totally correct.
That's not. Yeah. Well, Brother John wanted to ask, could figurines be our version of a photo album? Now, here's one of the things I want to point out before you answer is that in my mind, I kind of had the same question. So I'm sitting here, my son is over there. He's got a little bit of art in him. He really loves his grandma. He sits down and he knocks out a rock figure of his grandma. 2,000, 6,000, 8,000 years later, people are like, oh my God, this is goddess worship. But it was actually just his grandma. Now, the difference being is whenever you find this same shaped grandma in different houses in different colonies, then you start going, well, this is probably goddess worship or a goddess. But a one-off find could probably just be like a photo album or I like boobies. So he hops out a little.
Okay, so two things to that. Number one, why is it only women?
Right.
Why is there's I think 300 different figurines and the percentage of males is like, say, 3% or something. It's like, it's just, now I'm not saying that some aren't. So there's some in Siberia that are dated at, I think it's 15 to 19 or something thousand years ago. And they have clothes on. So they're not naked. They have clothes on and they have different kinds of like cold winter clothes. And one even has a backpack on. So once again, like I said, I don't think it's all or nothing. I think that's the problem is people try to lump like everything that looks similar and just say, well, because they're not being scientific. They're just saying, looks like all these are all females, so they all must be the same thing. That's not how science works. You need to look at every single thing and then see if there is connections. You can't just look at the whole group of them. It's like looking at a whole forest and going, they're all the same tree. It looks like it from here. I mean, from 100 feet away, they look like it's all the same tree. But the closer you get, you're like, okay, it's not all the same tree. So I'm just saying that, yes, these figurines. So I do think that could be true. And I think that the ones in Siberia with the clothes on, especially the backpack, that can't be like, to me, or this doesn't seem like, it would be an ancestor, like a worship. I don't think that it's a goddess of a backpack.
You even said ancestor worship.
What's that?
Before you even said ancestor worship. So me talking about the little kid knocking out a deal of his grandma is still vaguely.
It's vaguely. But what I mean ancestor worship is more of a sacred veneration, almost like a spirit or something, a ghost, and ancestor worship also. You think that if you do things here, if I give you food like once a year, you will fight sickness away from our culture, or you'll keep demons away, or you will be able to interact with demons and send them to these people we don't like, or whatever. In other words, they intercede on your behalf. Like, why kill children? Because these children can then be the best vessel, the most innocent, to intercede on our culture's behalf. That these children will go up to wherever, the spirit world, and they'll be able to say, be nice to our, thing. And because they're kids, people will want to love kids, so they'll try to make them happy or whatever. I'm just saying, I don't agree with this. I'm just saying that they're the mindset, like why they would kill children or something. They're not seeing it like we are. They're seeing it as the greatest sacrifice. It's one of the problems with religion. It believes that there needs to be a sacrifice.
Have you ever met a 3-year-old? I'm like, one more question out of you, buddy. We may have to offer a burnt sacrifice to God. Somebody's God.
But so I like I said, I do think that there seems to be evidence that there is goddess worship at some point. I think it's after 12,000 was the beginning of paganism. I don't think that they really. I think they had ancestor worship, probably. It could be as far back as animism, which I think starts about 100,000 years ago with burials and stuff and rituals.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually looking at that picture of your YouTube video right now. That's got the pre-animism, then animism, totemism, shamanism, paganism, and then progressed organized religion.
That's right. Yes,
I was just looking at your website, and as you were talking about that, I just happened to scroll and see that.
Right on.
That's part of what we'll be doing in the video series is we'll be covering from one end of the spectrum to the other as we go through.
We're just going to do a little more jumping around so it's more entertaining for people, or trying to at least. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we were talking about that, doing the first 10 episodes on Göbekli Tepe and
Correct.
trying to get through that. And then after we're done with that, we're going to do a more lighthearted, maybe a little humorous-esque one about the history of alcohol and drugs.
Yep.
Throughout these religions. So, and then we'll move on to the next city, and we'll start another series on the next city.
Right. Then we'll go to to Çatalhöyük, and then after Çatalhöyük, we're going to start talking about other stuff. I don't remember now what I said, but then we're going to eventually do Stonehenge. But Stonehenge to me will be a little bit different because I'm going to talk about the Russian Stonehenge, the Spanish Stonehenge, henges in general, and then where the concept for that megaliths comes from, and then so it's going to be a little more involved than just like, oh, let's talk about Stonehenge that you think you've heard 10,000 times.
One of my symbols videos is on the pyramids.
We have pyramids here in the U.S.
The Chinese pyramids,
Yep.
the Mexican pyramids,
Yep.
the Egyptian pyramids,
Chinese pyramids are about 5,000 years old, which is older than the Egyptian. I think it's a little bit less than 5,000, but somewhere close to there in Iran is the first step pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So these ideas, didn't, once again, it goes back to people like this thing of ancient aliens, these ideas of doing stuff was more spread around through early paganism than they realized, which is why you have so many of these things doing the same thing. And also you don't have to be a direct, because shamanism to me turns into paganism. So it's like this to me. Animism is just to make it super simple. This is not like all of it, but just to give you an idea. Well, because I just want to do real quick about all the different ones and how they kind of relate. So animism is kind of like the belief in a spirit life, like there's things out here that are all full of spirits, and a spirit afterlife. So that's where, so religions that have like that, thing, which is pretty much almost all of them, that have in a sense this lineage of animism. And then you have totemism, which is the belief in a sense that material objects that humans can create have this sort of a connection to this sort of a spirit, or represent the spirit, world in a sense, or even the spirit afterlife. Like in things like totem poles will have like a whole story, and it's not just one theme. It's about the clan, and it's about things going on. It's about, struggles. It couldn't even be about the top. Could be about afterlife. The bottom, in a sense, could be more about human things, or whatever. It has a structure in how they do it. But it's not just totem poles. It's just the totemism in general, the figurines and the kind of concepts. But also you have in totemism is this belief in what's called the sacred and profane. People that are animists don't generally view the world as non-sacred. Everything is sacred, in a sense. So they don't really believe in this heaven and hell. You kind of survive in this sacred world, sort of. So it's a different mindset. Then totemism comes in and goes, humans are kind of special, and we need to think about them differently than everything else. Animals and stuff are these spirits and, whatever. But it segments the world as this is like sacred, this is profane. You can do this behavior, you can't do this, it's wrong. Can't eat this, you can't do this. So anything that has these rules, in a sense, you can't eat this food, or you have to eat this food, or you got to do this specific behavior, that's in a sense a form of totemism, which a lot of, or almost all religions have this lineage of this totemistic thinking. So then you have shamanism, and shamanism is about like healing. And so when you have these prayer healers, in a sense, that they're interacting in a sense as this shaman, that they're interceding on your behalf with the spirit world or a spirit entity to help you in a sense get healed or to offer protection.
Before you step up real quick, would the like the Haitian witch doctors, would they fall into the shamanism?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just a different term. I mean, that's people calling it the same thing. It's not.
Yeah.
Witch doctor.
I wasn't sure if that would, if the witch doctors fell into the shamanism or if they fell into paganism.
Well, it depends. Once again, even if you say shamanism, you have to think what's going on, because they don't. In other words, they don't. Especially these old type of religions, shamanism's been around about 30,000 years. It doesn't, in a sense, stay like inclusive. It would go somewhere else. It picks up some of the themes of the area. So you have different. Shamanism is a general persuasion, but everyone's practice of shamanism could be a little different. Like I said, some could kind of believe in a god also, but not. Some have, wouldn't even know what you're talking about. So, I mean, some could be a little bit like paganism, others not. And some could be more like animism. Some could be more like totemism and shamanism. Usually these kind of religions were not, didn't stay, like, say if you're Christian, you don't want to learn shamanism. Not saying that there's none that do, but in general, you want just but these other type of faiths, they don't have that kind of an aversion to ideas the same way, so that they mold more. But in general, there's a general persuasion of what they do. So yes, in general, I would say probably a witch doctor, depending on who it is, but it could be more totemistic. But still the act of, if you're doing the healing thing or the protection thing, that probably has something to do. But in general, I see it as the beginning of the belief that humans can intercede with some other world, some other, entity, spirit or whatever, and then get things done on the behalf of themselves or other people. So that's very close to the paganism, priest. The difference is now it becomes a deity more distinctly than say a shaman. They could have spirit animals. They could, so it's not like, oh, it's always Yahweh, or whatever, or Zeus, so when it starts to be focused on a deity, that's when I see it being more paganism. And to me, the world's religions today, progressed, organized, or institutional religions, to me happens after 5,000. Because what happened is, before this, religion is your own kind of, culture or personal persuasion. But after 5,000, you have places like, Egypt make, in a sense, this monarchy religion over the whole area, where the whole country, in a sense, southern and northern, upper Egypt, whatever, become, in a sense, one entity under the shared set of beliefs. And to me, what they did is basically took a lot of beliefs that were separate of these two areas, the south and north, what they believed, and kind of melted them together. And in fact, they did that with the hats too, where they had one hat was for the people of the southern kingdom and one hat was for the northern kingdom, and they put them together and made one hat out of the two hats to be the unification, and then the hat then for the pharaohs. But that's, in a sense, to me, what they did to their polytheistic religions. They had these multiple ones and blended them together, and then they said, hey, this is what we all have to worship now. So, and then what I say also is it's the first time that religion got a military. Because all of a sudden...
Yeah, the Egyptians were very...
But I'm saying, so... Well, because before that, the idea didn't completely start there. It starts more in Mesopotamia, but it's city-states. It's little entities saying, we have this mother goddess that gave our king power, and he has sex with her through these females that are on earth, and he then is having sex with the goddess and has this glory right to rule. But it's this one little area. And so it was multiple city-states kind of fighting for power or trying to be prestige, where Egypt takes over like the whole country area. They're the first one to say in 5,100 that this land is all ours and we're going to have one unified religion. That to me, where you have the first really what a lot of people today talk about like as indoctrinated or, forced religion or whatever, a religion of oppression. Yeah, I see it as then. Because it says this is the religion you're all going to believe. This is what we believe. And it's not like, does this reasonable? It's just, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, a different type of religion. It's still, to me, a form of paganism, but something's changed. It's now institutionalized. It's no longer this free-flowing set of belief systems. It's now this, you have to do this. And then they structure society where the in a sense king priest, the pharaoh, who is a priest over the whole religion and culture and monetary and everything, the one and only, in a sense. But below him is priests. And then it's like, the rich people, and then like the warriors, and then like the regular people, and then the slaves. It becomes this hierarchical system where religion puts itself at the top. And so I also find it funny when people talk about, well, that's just culture. Well, what time are we talking about? Because if you're talking about certain time, culture and religion were not two separate things. They were the same thing.
Yeah. So Raven just posted something in the chat that would be really, really good. And she says you need to get Trevor Bailey, Digital Hammurabi, and Aaron Ra on your show.
Right on.
Now, do you know who Digital Hammurabi is?
No.
Digital Hammurabi.
I know who Hammurabi is. The code giver from Mesopotamia, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Josh has got a PhD in Mesopotamian and Sumerian.
Beautiful.
So yeah, and he's got his own YouTube channel. It's called Digital Hammurabi.
Cool.
And actually, he's got it's kind of funny. I want to get into this. He actually has a web series where he teaches you how to read and speak Sumerian.
Right on.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool.
And then of course everybody knows who Aaron Ra is. So.
They would both be good to get on the show. All three would be good to get on the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
As get on the because as I said, we've got if all goes well, we're going to be talking hundreds of individual episodes.
Oh yeah. And definitely, like I said, I agree. We'll definitely have guests on, and people are welcome to come on. Definitely.
That's going to be fun. Well, guys, we've done 2 whole hours now. I want to thank you because I get y'all slave labor for free.
Right, fine.
Damien, I'm definitely going to email you because
cool.
I would love to get your take on Egyptian culture.
I actually have 3 blogs on Egyptian culture starting way pre it. I start where the Egyptian, I want to say 40,000 years ago is where it starts, and it shows all the culture up into Egypt because I feel like you really, once again, don't understand Egypt unless you understand how we got to Egypt, how the transition, what happened culturally in that area and outside of it, but especially that area. Just like people don't realize that there's, well, I won't keep going on because I mean you need to end. Don't get me started on stuff.
No, we will see art. So that's the whole deal. One of the good things about you is you got a lot packed in there, and we could have you back.
Yeah, definitely.
We could have you back just to talk about Egypt, for example.
That's very
on the
true.
morning show, and then I could have actually Jay back. Or Jay's got his own show.
I got my own show.
Yeah.
But my own show usually is only on Saturday nights.
There you go.
So,
well, that's good. I don't prefer mornings.
What was that?
I said that's good because I don't prefer mornings.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I was corrected in the chat. For some reason, I know she's there, but I always forget her. Digital Hammurabi is Dr. Josh and his wife Megan.
Cool.
Yes.
It's both of them.
Yeah, it's both of them. Yeah.
And for some reason, I always forget. I can see her when I talk about it, but my brain never, because everything I watch has always been Dr. Josh. Very rare to see, because at the time when I started watching them, she was working on her PhD, so she wasn't around a lot. It was always Dr. Josh.
Right.
So, gotcha.
Yeah, and just so people know, speaking of which, PhD, I have a bachelor's in psychology and only 7 classes in my master's, and I dropped out to become a full-time atheist-humanist activist. So just so people know where my credentials lie.
Yeah. Best name says Dr. Josh graduated from Johns Hopkins with a PhD in Assyriology in 2016. Cool. And Megan graduated with a master's in 2019.
See, a lot of people don't know it's called Assyriology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I would love to have either and or both of them on the show. Actually, or be on their show if they have shows. Jay?
Yeah, they do.
Jay?
Cool.
Don't. Hey,
how come you haven't invited me to be on your show?
Huh?
How come you haven't invited me to be on your show?
I'm working on it. I'm getting guests lined up for the new show.
What's that?
I said I'm working on getting guests lined up for the new show. So.
And I'm going to do a recording too with you where we talk for an hour about you also, Chris.
Me?
Yeah, on my show.
Oh, we're talking about me.
Yeah. So we're going to do one on that too.
Me. About that.
Especially because
I will send you an email probably within the week, Damien.
Right on.
and see if we can't get something together. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, once you send it to me, if you ask me stuff, I probably have a bunch of articles you can check out. And then once you check them out, we could talk about it, and it would be more effective than just me mentioning stuff. And you could look up, ask specific questions. Wow, this happened, whatever at 20,000. Oh, okay. Oh, at 12,000, there was, shamanistic, stuff, or, so you can talk about different stuff.
Cool. Yeah, definitely.
Right on.
So,
I appreciate it.
I want to do the thing. Thank you guys for joining us. Everybody else in the chat, thank you all for showing up, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Bye.